happiness, I think it's more doing the challenging things and then having some degree of success, and then you take a lot of happiness from that. Happiness in that, for me, comes from the difficulty, the challenge is more than, doing things that are easy and that are pleasing, but everyone is different.
Welcome to another episode of Success with Purpose, where we help mentor you into becoming a more successful version of yourself. We do this through giving you access to mentors you typically would never have the opportunity to connect with. We explore their journeys, their experiences, their life-changing events, their fields of expertise, and most importantly, their purpose. My name is Harry Goldberg, husband to an incredible woman, father of 2 amazing daughters, host, interviewer, and interrogator of this podcast. And now, just before we learn from yet another exceptional guest, if you find value from these conversations, please make sure to like and subscribe below, leave a review. It really does make a difference. And of course, share it with someone else who's going to find value. Now, listen in, pay attention, take some notes, enjoy. Let's begin. Olivier, welcome.
Thank you, Harry. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. I'm glad we found the time for this. I was thinking about how to introduce you, and I decided that instead of the normal way of describing your journey, I'll share what one of our other podcast guests have on Success with Purpose has described you as. He described you as Olivier, an extremely successful, inspiring, and eclectic individual with a degree from INSEAD, an extraordinary trading career in London, a senior strategy leader at Macquarie. He's a founder and entrepreneur in Sydney, Australia. And on top of all this, he's a master storyteller, a public speaker, and a famous writer of at least 5 novels published in at least English and French. And finally, a deep thinker, a philosopher, and he animates monthly philosophical debates as founder of the Philo Bistro's talk show hosted in Alliance Française of Sydney.
Gosh,
I can see you
that's
looking a little bit awkward hearing all of that.
Yeah, he's been too generous. He's been far too generous, and he's been overselling me. So it's a bit embarrassing for me. But I hope I will live to his standards in this podcast.
Well, here we go. Let's get started. How do you define success?
Success for me is actually not. Is not about like an individual event or an individual achievement that you achieve. It's for me. It's when I think about success, it's really the path that you need to take, and then to at the end of the journey to look back and not to regret anything about what you've done or not done. So it's a bit more philosophical and a bit less business orientated, but for me, success is that. So, and that's kind of the way that I drive my life. So every time I have to make a decision, I think of, will I ever regret not doing this or doing this down the line? And that's So for me, success is that is that vision of arriving at the end of the journey, looking back and not regretting anything.
Okay, now a lot of people listening to this are going to be thinking, wait, you mean I can look at the end of the journey and I can look back? We've had quite a few guests speak about this, so I want to, in some ways, labor the point and maybe get more insight into how you approach this looking back exercise that you do. Because a lot of people struggle with that. They're like, well, how do I know if I'm going to regret it or not? I haven't even done it, or I have done it. I'll only know after I've done it. And then when I see the outcome, then I'm going to know if I'm going to regret it or not. I can't possibly know if I'm going to regret something now. What would you say?
Yeah, that's a good point. It's all the theory of the Myers-Briggs tests. Whether you are an introvert or an extrovert or an introvert, whether how you make decisions, whether you are analytical or intuitive, or I guess for me, my type is ENTP. So I'm a mix of both, basically, and I've got my 2 sides of my brain, which are kind of fighting against each other. So it's a bit of intuition and a bit of analytical abilities, which make me decide, whether it's the right path or not I'm on.
So what happens in your mind when you're doing that? So let's just say you're making a decision, right? Let's say you're making a career decision. You've put a lot of effort and thought and thinking about, is this going to be the right thing? You put a lot of effort into your career already. You're already deciding, yes, I definitely want to take this a step like this, but is this the right time? Is this what I want to be able to do? Is this going to be the right move? What if I'm missing out on something else here? And there's always going to be conundrums and choices which you have to make. And so let's just say it's that person. They're thinking about either waiting for a promotion at their current company or going for an opportunity that exists in front of them at another organization right now.
Yeah.
And let's say that you're in that situation. So Olivier is sitting there thinking, do I take this other external role or do I wait for the internal promotion, which my manager's promising to me? How does Olivier go through and make that decision?
One side of me would like to say that I think of what people would expect I would do, and I do the opposite. That's one side of me, and I've done that a couple of times. And the other side, the other more rational side, is really is whether that move that I'm going to take or not is going to take me closer to what I imagine is the way that I can develop and my vision of where I want to go in the future. And I really believe in movement. So for me, success as well is movement. Is always being in movement rather than being stale and thinking about the big things you can achieve, and then thinking about it all the time, but not taking any step to that. So for me, success is always being on the move and doing little steps, however small they are, but in a way that you think will take you where you want to go. So when I make a decision, it's kind of I'm applying that filtering system, whether that step will take me closer to that vision I have.
I like what you're saying here because it's you're already what I'm hearing in your response is that you're constantly trying to think of new ways to keep moving regardless of the circumstance. Like especially if you're going to say something as contrarian as just going, I'm just going to do the opposite of what other people expect I'm going to do. It kind of that already kind of tells me that you don't care too much about, or you don't mind too much about what the action's going to take, as long as it's aligned with your values and you've already defined, staying at the company with where your manager's promising a promotion is a great choice, and moving to another place, which is already a step up but in an uncertain environment, is a great choice. And so they're both really good decisions. They both have drawbacks, both have positives, but they're both good decisions. Well, how do I make sure I don't stop moving? A lot of people think, well, obviously he's saying it's always about movement and not just thinking, so of course he's going to jump to the other role. But I'd imagine that you're already looking for other opportunities in your existing place as well. Well, what other projects can I do if my manager's promising me that there's going to be a promotion? Well, what other projects can I get involved in? What other extra things can I do? What can I do with regards to reducing my hours there so I can do something more there, or can do more networking, or can expand even more opportunities elsewhere? Is that how your mind's constantly thinking? Where are the other opportunities?
Yeah, absolutely. No, it is that way that my mind is thinking, and also I'm always thinking about what I can control and what I can't control. And I tend to focus now, with a bit of maturity that I have, I tend to focus more on what I can control. And the rationale for that is I really want to own my life and to be a driver of my life, because I've been at some point in my life a passenger, and that's not a good feeling, to be a passenger and just kind of not driving things. And it's a bit more comfortable sometimes. You can be a passenger and yet being very well paid. You don't have to think too much about what you do every day. You go to work, you go back to the evening, you have dinner, you go to bed, and then you do it all over again. So it doesn't take that much effort because you are on a train effectively. But it's not very satisfying. And 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 I had a few moments like that in my life, and I was not at my happiest. My happiest is when I actually take control, and I am driving the way I want to lead and live my life. And it takes a bit more effort, and it's a bit more complicated. But happiness, I think it's more that it's more doing the challenging things, uh, and then having some degree of success, and then you take a lot of happiness from that. Happiness in that, for me, it comes from the difficulty. The challenge is more than doing things that are easy and that are pleasing you. But everyone is different.
Okay. Oh, cool. Thank you for sharing. We'll definitely circle back to your definition of success. But let's start diving into your journey. And where did it start from you? You got that nice strong French accent and the French name. I'm guessing you were born in Australia.
No, I was born in France. You're right, and I've worked very hard over the years to keep my French accent, despite having lived for 13 years in London and 12 years in Sydney. So I've been for 25 years in Anglo-Saxon countries. So it's been, a very big challenge for me to keep my French accent. But I'm very proud of that. So the journey for me started in France in a town called Nancy. So it's near Strasbourg. So you picture France, that's northeast of France, close to Germany, close to the German border. And it's a region that is very famous for its weather, continental weather. So 6 months of winter and 3 months of spring and 3 months of summer. But so it's either very cold in winter or very hot in summer. So it's a non-forgiving region. And it's a region also which went back and forth between France and Germany, over the last two centuries, because of wars and events like that. So I was born there in a monoparental family. I've got two brothers and one sister. We've all been raised by my single mum, so there haven't been any male role model during my childhood, which then has meant a number of things during my career, but maybe we can come back to that later. But I've always been on the lookout for male role models, whether in my social circles or at work. And I always needed to have a strong male leader, if it happened to be a male leader in my team. Otherwise, I always struggled to basically be inspired by that person or look up to that person. So for me, leadership is a very personal thing at its roots. So I was born there, and then age 18, I departed. I wanted to set sail, and I went to do a business school in Bordeaux. So as far as possible as Nancy, because I wanted to not cut the ties with my family, but kind of emancipate myself and put a bit of distance to be free. So freedom is one of the things that I value the most in life. Which goes back to what I was saying earlier about being the driver of your life, focusing on what you can control versus not control. And based on that business school curriculum that I did, that was really the platform for me to go internationally. And I always dreamt of the United States, so I went and did an exchange program at Boston College in my last year of studies, and then I came back and I got that contract with Société Générale, the French bank in London, and then that started my career basically in London. So first as an intern with Société Générale, the French bank, then I was hired as a graduate with PwC, so as a strategy consultant, so. And then for the next 13 years, I've applied exactly, my principles of life, which is really to be a yes man, to take opportunities as they arise, as long as they are interesting and kind of contribute to my overall vision of development and learning new things. So I was a management consultant with PwC for 4 years. I got a tap on the shoulder, and I got that opportunity to become a business manager at an investment bank in London for Dresdner Kleinwort. After 6 months in the job, some French people in the equity derivatives trading team tap me on my shoulder and say, what are you doing here? You should come with us. And so they sent me to INSEAD to learn all the financial mathematics and black scholes and all that technical stuff. And I came back and I became the co-owner of a trading book. Although I did not have an engineering background, or I'm quite technical in some ways, but that was pretty new. And then for the next 5 years, I was co-trading the hedge funds options book for Dresdner with another fellow Frenchman. Until the GFC hit. And maybe I'll pause there just to see, if you've got any,
Yeah, no,
any reflection.
there's a lot which went on there. You were single this whole time? You definitely weren't a father yet.
No, I was not a father. I was not married. I had girlfriends.
Yeah, but in terms of like your commitment was basically towards your career and finding new opportunities and
Yes.
continuing to grow yourself, right? It's as if you're still in this phase that you got when you were 18 and you moved to Bordeaux and I'm focusing on my freedom. I'm running around like a prince working out where to plant my flag and
Yeah.
and really just building up your career and these amazing experiences as well.
Yeah, no, 100%. And, London at that time, in those years between 2010 and 2008 and 9 until the GFC hit, was like such a melting pot. It was a vibrant place where effectively the square mile. So the square mile is effectively that square 1 mile over 1 mile, which defines the almost like the CBD in Sydney. So where all the banks and the
Yeah.
consulting firms and the law firms are. And it was a vibrant place to be in as a 20-year-old something, from all over the world, getting there, working hard and play hard. That was very much the motto: work hard, play hard. And these days, this thing has kind of disappeared. Now it's work hard and work harder, kind of. But I feel like the newest generation don't necessarily have the play hard bit. Maybe because they are not as interested as to celebrate successes with their teams, or at least not in the same way. Because back then it was really, celebrating by going to the pub or bars or clubs, or to celebrate in quite a flamboyant way. And I'm glad I experienced that. Some of it was, didn't make sense at all. Some of it was maybe a bit too decadent. But there was something really genuine and true and visceral about all of that. About all those smart graduates coming together and trying to do something a bit different than your normal 9 to 5 job that's other friends from business school had effectively. So I look back at that time, and I don't regret it at all. Even though I could have stayed with PwC, by then I could have maybe be a partner in a consulting firm, but I decided to take the opportunity to become a trader and be part of that world, even if it was not going to last my whole life. I wanted to live that and experience that. And then a book is born of that experience, because it was so Romanesque. So there is so much storytelling in that story that I wrote a book about it. So
Can you
it's
can you give some examples of what that decadence and what that play hard actually was? Like, can you give some insight into that world? I've never been in that world, so I'm exceptionally curious.
that's if I can give you a couple of examples, is um, all the traders basically were serviced by a number of brokerage firms outside, which were third parties, and effectively for the brokers to secure the trading flow of traders in banks, anything is going basically. So the brokers would invite us to Wimbledon, We would go to center court in Wimbledon. We would be taken to nightclubs. They would pay for champagne. So it's kind of those kind of gifts which now wouldn't go down well, because it's not within the gifts and that entertainment policy. But at the time there was no gift and entertainment policy. In some extremes, some big traders were taken to a weekend away or a weekend in Ibiza, or so that was part of the culture and the system. And I'm not saying it's the right thing in hindsight, when we look back, but at the time, nobody was questioning that, because in a way, it was a system that worked according to the metrics that we had, and the metrics that we had, did not include like diversity and inclusion, and even less equity. So now we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. That didn't really exist. So yeah, on trading floors it was mostly male, except for the sales department. So the sales had a few female colleagues, but very rare. Gift and entertainment, there was no policies. It was like not regulated.
How was it for you watching Wolf of Wall Street? Oh, not that extreme.
Oh, it's taken to an extreme, but yeah, it was. It's actually quite aligned with the culture back then. Yeah, absolutely. I'm not surprised that stories like that actually could exist, and now they've made into movies. But it was like a movie, and sometimes I was watching from the sidelines as if I was almost like not part of it. And maybe that's my writing hat coming in play, and I've got that still today, is that ability of kind of removing myself from the action without people noticing, and just observing, and just being a sponge and learning and seeing, and kind of trying to wear my writer's hat and understanding what is going on, what are the dynamics here. What are people thinking about? Why are they acting like that? And that's fascinating. That was just
what type of answers do you get to those? What type of answers do you get from those why questions when you got the writer's hat on?
Sorry, what do you mean?
Oh, what type of answers do you get from when you're asking yourself why are people doing that? Why are they acting in that way? Why are they doing things in those ways?
I think a lot of it has got to do with their parents, parenting. Some people are looking for validation. Some people are looking for revenge on their poor upbringing condition, for example, which is partly my case. I come from a pretty poor background, or like middle class, and with not many opportunities in a small town that I was in. So there was an element of revenge, and I could see that in quite a few of my colleagues. So it's really the rag to riches kind of storyline archetype. For others, it was just a continuation of excellence. So I had a few colleagues who did Oxford or Cambridge, and like in a technical subject like engineering, and they just wanted to continue and being kind of part of that elite, because let's face it, not everyone had the chance to be part of that group of people. At that time it was still quite competitive, even if there were more people than today operating in those jobs, but it was still kind of so there were a bit of everything, and that was the beauty of it. It was not very normalized or standardized. There were lots of different people from different walks of life, but all ready to work hard and a bit obsessive with the money, to be honest. So everyone was quite a bit obsessed with the financial rewards.
Having more money.
Yeah, but also the power that comes with it. Uh, and I feel that has disappeared a little bit now, and I think that's why banks maybe find it a bit harder to recruit top talents from universities, because people are looking at not only financial reward but kind of the alignments with kind of ESG metrics, sustainability, the values of the company, how interesting the work is going to be. I feel the new generations would rather compromise on money and do something that they really like and believe in, and feel it's philosophically aligned with them, rather than kind of compromising themselves a little bit to an extent. I
Just
might
out
be
of
wrong,
curiosity,
but that's
before we
my sense.
continue with the journey. No, I suspect there's much of that, and there might be a swing back the other way anytime soon.
Yeah.
Probably a generation after next, who knows? But just before we continue with the journey, I'm just curious, what type of trading were you doing? You said it was option trading in hedge funds.
Yeah, so it was I was part of the alternative investments desk, which is doing funds of hedge funds. So it's options on funds of hedge funds and structured products on mutual funds. So it was like structured products, and which was a booming business at the time, because the interest rates were high. So anytime you want to do like some kind of capital guaranteed products, you could have like a payout premium, like a call option on top. It's a bit technical, but yeah, when the rates are high, you can, those products were booming at the time, and it was kind of the beginning of it all. So all the banks were riding that wave.
Okay, cool. Okay, so you went through this journey. You're chasing freedom. You're becoming your own man, as we were discussing. You got across to trading. You kept moving the whole time. You had these amazing experiences you wouldn't have gotten if you kept up the normal path of just becoming towards partner of consulting at PwC. And as a result of that, you were trading and everything was going exceptionally well until 2008, and GFC hit. And so then what happened for you?
Very good things actually happened to me, despite what it looks like, because in the process I met my wife to be. So my wife to be had just arrived from Australia. So she arrived like April 2008, and we met in a nightclub in Mayfair a month after she arrived, and we fell in love, and the rest is history. And the rest is history, although it hasn't been smooth, because I lost my job during that period, like in 2009. She lost her job, and so we had to start afresh and kind of reinvent ourselves, which in the middle of the GFC was not really easy. And lots of our colleagues haven't managed to find another job ever, actually, in the financial industry. So some people have.
Is it like the older colleagues struggle to?
Yeah,
or?
yeah. Slightly older colleagues basically never got back in the financial industry, either because the jobs were not existing anymore, or they were just like squeezed out of the system and couldn't get back in, which was not our case, fortunately. But so that whole period, we all often talk about perfect storm situation, when everything is coming at once. So you lose your job, you met the woman of your life or the man of your life, and then you find another job again or another opportunity, which was my case. So after a few months of traveling with my wife, or my wife to be, just because we had that freedom. So we just did a bit of a tour of Europe for a few months, and then we came back, and I had that opportunity to join a startup hedge fund with a couple of French colleagues who did set up that hedge fund, and I was asked to set up the macro research function for them, which meant hiring analysts research analysts and setting up the function for the fund. And the function was due
This is the first time you had ownership in the company that you were working in?
yeah, to have ownership of that mandate. Definitely, I was the first employee of that startup hedge fund, and so I recruited 5 top-ranked research analysts, and my mandate was basically to produce recommendations, investment recommendations to both our internal fund managers and also to our external clients, which was a fantastic
Cool.
experience.
What did you, because it sounds like you weren't just employing kind of junior people and kind of building them up along their career journey. You said you're finding like the best analysts or some of the best analysts you could find, right? So you're already
Yeah,
hiring people who are quite senior and experienced.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, we had a couple of juniors in the team, but we wanted to have, like senior analysts who were well respected, and which made it fun because there was lots of debates and challenges um, and demanding, for me, because my degree from business school, I had a economics major, but I was not an economist per trade, during my career. So I had kind of to relearn that all those economics fundamental and to get into it, basically to roll up my sleeves and learn with them, and get the best out of them. And I love that managerial experience, to have that very, very close team and get the best ideas, the best collective intelligence from the group. It was quite an exhilarating experience for me and foundational.
Uh, Okay, I bet. I mean, there's a lot of people when they start managing people for the first time, they they're usually managing people who they're just passing work off to. It's like, here you go, you can go do this, you can go do this. So you need to teach them how to do the task, which they're doing. But here, these people you're hiring were significantly better than you technically, and you
Yes.
needed to learn just enough to be able to engage with them deeply so that you can
Yeah.
then ultimately improve, and then improve the outcomes for the whole organization.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Very well said, Harry. Yeah, I wouldn't have summarized it in a better way.
What was next? So you've been doing this, and how long were you in that role for,
For 3 years.
and how much did that 3 years did the team grow throughout those 3 years as
Yes.
well?
Yeah. So the
Okay.
team grew, and we took some bigger offices in Mayfair, and yeah, no, it's been a good experience. But in the meantime, I got married, and my Australian wife had the idea of maybe, just maybe, coming back to Australia to be closer to her family and to create our own family in a bit of a different environment, because our lives in London were very much, I guess, very well suited to individually minded people, or young energetic couples, but not
Yeah.
necessarily to newly married, newlywed people who want to have a child. You could do it, but it would be kind of maybe not the right environment, or kind of mindset altogether. So we thought Australia would be a good place to go to have a family, raise kids in a stable environment, and a beautiful country like Australia. So at the age of 35, I took the plunge, and I had that opportunity to start afresh and reinvent myself one more time. And so we resigned both from our jobs, from our good jobs in London, and we arrived with our laptop in Sydney. We rented a flat in Paddington for 3 months, and we sat down at the kitchen table and starting to look for jobs. And that
Mm.
was back
Okay.
in 2012, 12 years ago.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So that was 2012. Oh, just at the start of the whole property boom. Did you buy a place pretty quickly?
Yes, so we were lucky to buy a
Yeah,
place
okay.
pretty
There you go.
quickly. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Cool. And then what type of work did you did you get involved with then? Where did your career go to, and how long were you in Sydney for until you started until your first child too? I'm guessing
We
2 years.
no, just 1 year because or my first child was procreated one year after we arrived. We were just
Yeah,
waiting
okay,
basically
right.
for me to have a job. My wife knew lots of people in Sydney, so she had no problem finding a job. For me, I came on a spouse visa, which means I was dependent on my marriage. So if I was not married anymore, having no kids, I would have had to leave the country within 4 weeks, I believe, if I remember right. And so, which means that at the time it was quite tricky to find a permanent role. And I did reach the final interview in a number of domestic financial institutions, only to be asked, "Oh, by the way, what's your visa or paper situation?" And when I was saying I was on a spouse visa, they say, "Oh, okay. Actually, sorry, but we can't offer you the
Because
role."
it was still a temporary visa, right?
It's a temporary visa.
Mm.
And so
Yeah.
for jobs with responsibilities, it was against the policy of many companies to offer
Mm.
jobs to people like us. Until until I had that opportunity with Macquarie, who are a bit more, I guess, progressist, and they offered me like a fixed term contract to start with, and then when I became a permanent resident, they switched me to a permanent role. But it took me a year. It took me a year to get to that point. So during that first year, it was a bit difficult, to the point that we were almost considering going back to London, because I was wondering, oh, will it work for us? Will we be successful? And we are not sure. So it was quite close actually that we would come back to London.
So that was one of those moments, and you were, I'm guessing, in that moment as well, you were thinking, which path are you gonna least regret?
Yeah,
Look
yeah,
at, was
that's
that was that one of the moments you look towards the end of life and look back? Am I going to regret going back to London? Am I going to regret staying in Australia?
hundred
Were those
percent,
considerations?
100%, and it's another one of those seminal moments where everything happens at once. So that was June 2013. We were thinking of going back after 11 months in the country and me still not having a job. And the perfect storm situation happened again. I got the job, a good job at Macquarie Bank. Uh, my wife fell pregnant, and within weeks we bought that place that I'm now actually in at the moment. So which was just before the property boom. So everything happened at once, and in the end we stayed, and 12 years later I'm here talking to you
And how long did you stay at Macquarie for in that type of role?
for 10 years.
For 10 years in
Yeah.
that same type of role, or were you moving around?
I had two roles in 10 years. So first I was part of the strategy
Okay.
function, uh, so the central strategy function in the corporate operations group. And then
Hmm.
I moved to risk management. So I was a strategy lead in the risk management function for 5 years. So I had two 5-year roles within that 10 years. But I must say that 10 years
Okay.
it seems long, but I'm quite a loyal employee, and
Mhm.
when I decide something, also I said I'm always on the lookout for opportunities. I still want to give it a good shot, and I keep at it, and I really believe in persistence. And it takes time, to know the organization, to know the culture, to know the teams, and to be accepted, and it takes time to reach a point where you can actually influence the outcomes through your relationships. And many companies these days are relationships based, and it takes time to build relationships. So I don't really believe in adding value when you stay 6 months or 1 year in a company. It takes a bit longer than that, I believe.
How do you deepen those relationships?
Mostly through the quality of the work that you produce and through the art of questioning. I think lots of people I guess, are quite keen to to talk and explain, which is good, which is helpful. But I'm actually more inclined to ask questions, and that's probably why I'm doing the side gig with the Alliance Française as the moderator of the Philo Bistro cultural event, where I'm basically an interviewer. I've been told I was quite good at asking questions, and I think through asking the right question, and I think Harry, you are an expert in that as well. I think you can build trust and confidence from the people you are talking to. Through insightful questions, you can really again bring the best out of people, and I will always be grateful for that. And I'm quite grateful for all your good questions, Harry. I mean, it's not the typical questions that a podcaster would ask. Like it's quite deep and meaningful. So thank you.
That means a lot to me. Thank you. I think along with what you're saying, there's a lot of value when you're asking these questions. It's not. I've found a lot of people ask deeper questions or try and do this art of questioning, as you're describing it, to get a particular outcome for themselves, as opposed to towards being curious. Just being curious for what's the outcome going to be. What can I learn from this person? It's like, here's a great analogy. People who go to, it's an extreme situation, but people who go to Tony Robbins seminars, right? There are people who go to these Tony Robbins seminars and they're sitting there and they're going, okay, yeah, this is interesting. They're just listening. And there are other people who will go in there and they're writing everything down as if, and listening so intently, as if the very next thing that Tony or the speaker is saying is going to be absolute wisdom. As if the next thing that's being said is the thing that's going to change their life, right? And those people who are going there to listen for those types of answers, they're looking for that type of wisdom, and then they'll find the wisdom. They're not trying to say, hey, I want him to say that and do this. The people who are sitting back are going, yeah, come on. Is he going to say the thing I agree with yet? Is he going to say that? Come on, make me feel good. As opposed to other people, they're really trying to find the answers. And so I think that this whole topic of questioning, which I've come to learn from the 2.5 years of this podcast and 7-8 years of coaching, has been that the questions you ask is not so much about the questioning style, it's more about your desire to learn from the other. How much can you learn from that person? And if you don't ask the questions, it's because you're not interested. And if you don't ask the questions that get the truthful responses, it's because you're not asking questions that are seeking truthful answers.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree. And then there is the asking question, and then there is the listening. And I think I see a lot of people listening to reply. So they listen to be able to reply. Whereas I listen I listen to understand. First and foremost, not necessarily to reply. And so for me, in conversation is not only questions, answers. It's actually questions, listening, silence, and then maybe I will reply. But it's not as formulaic as that, And for me, that's the definition of a true conversation. A true conversation is great questions, great listening skills, and then a bit of a pause, and then you see what's next, depending on what makes sense. It's quite organic in a way, but yeah. So listening to understand rather than listening to reply is something I really believe in.
I have a close friend of mine who she teaches a lot about parenting as well, and one of her approaches is it's not about conversations, it's about dialogue. You don't want to have a conversation. For example, when you're engaging with your children, you don't want to have a conversation. They come here so I can talk to you. It's like, huh? What? It's one way. Whereas she has a rule with her kids, that the rule is that we always have a dialogue. When one of us asks for a dialogue, we have a dialogue. And the dialogue is because it goes two ways. Right? It goes one way to the other, to the other, to the other. You're both attempting to understand and connect with each other, as opposed to listen to reply. or and then
Yeah,
the kids listening to reply, yes, okay, can I get away from here? I've had enough of this. Um, but you're
yeah.
saying that you've learned to influence outcomes through relationships. You the way you build the relationships is quality work and this art of questioning. So there are a few steps here. So the art of questioning is one. What's quality of work?
Quality of work is to have an owner mindset. So if you are given a task, you've got to deliver it. You've got to deliver on the expectation, almost like no matter what. And it's been my mantra. So I've got that owner mentality with everything in life, but including my work packages at home, at work, um, and at home. So, if I'm on one night, I'm due to cook a dinner for the family, where I will cook and deliver the dinner and not only deliver the dinner, but get the kids to eat it and then put the plates away. So it's an end-to-end ownership with, of course, a few challenges along the way, and that's fine. But I really believe, yeah, in taking ownership and delivering and then reporting on it, kind of following up on what worked, what didn't work, having a critical view of what was delivered, what can be done better next time, and that's the way I work, and that's the way I've been able to grow and for people to trust me and get remain employed, I guess, to this day.
Okay, so we got onto this topic because you were talking about how 6 months isn't enough, and 10 years might seem like a long time, but 10 years isn't actually that long of a time because you always want to make sure you can add value through the relationships, and it takes time to build up the relationships. If you're just taking ownership of what you're doing, as in creating quality work, and then questioning people really well, why can't that be done in 6 months, or 1 year, or 2 years? Why is it got to be 5 or 10?
Good question. I guess it depends on the industry. I think when you deal with the financial services industry, which is highly regulated, with lots of complex transformation programs, mostly driven by regulatory requirements, which are quite complex, broad-based, global, and also principle-based, rather than set in stone and you've got a tick box list, which means that there is a bit of interpretation on those regulatory requirements as to how you are going to meet those requirements. So the programs coming from that are pretty big for a global organization, as you can imagine, because you've got regulatory requirements which are different in every part of the world, and you've got to have the right processes in place, to meet those regulatory expectations consistently, efficiently, etc., etc. So I think that's part of the rationale for the length of time is the nature of the industry itself, in financial services industry. But having said that, at the moment I'm in a different industry. I'm working for a strategic and creative agency. So it's been a bit of a shift in gear compared to my previous role at Macquarie. I've been there about 8 months now, and it's so it could be faster in theory, but in practice it takes time because I'm developing a new business internally. So I'm developing the consulting function within that agency, and it takes time to again build relationship with potential clients. It takes time to raise awareness and visibility for the agency in the marketplace, and it takes also lots of flat whites to get to a point where you
Like
can
coffees, right?
sign a contract and get to a point where you reach that level of trust and confidence from potential clients. So yeah, so I guess to your question as why can't it be done in 6 months or a year? I think it's a function of the industry, and maybe the cycle is quicker in some industries. But overall, I would say it takes longer these days because it's competitive. It's a competitive environment, and when you look for funding as a startup, or when you look for new clients as an established company, there are lots of competitors out there. And in the end, you can offer great services, but it's a personal relationship at the end of the day, right? There are people involved, and it takes time. It's not only like a WhatsApp message and the deal is done, or the agreement is signed. It's a bit more than that. Despite all the technology and the artificial intelligence, you could think that it's going quicker, but on the human basis, the human species aren't going as fast as technology, which is interesting as a conundrum, right? It's hard to reconcile both. Does that make sense, Harry? You
Yeah,
see?
no, that makes sense to me. I'm hearing you. I'm hearing your answer, and I'm considering, and I've taken your response. I'm considering about, because I know you have a 5 and a 10-year-old now, so you got two girls, and this has all been during the Sydney phase, right? Like during the Australia phase. Um, how's that? How did that journey start to change you? First, I have two daughters myself, but first having one daughter while you're working in corporate, and then having the second daughter while you're still working in corporate, and then having two kids, and then changing the tack of your career to go and work for a much smaller, or to start up a business unit within an entirely different company and industry. How's that journey been for you?
Mm. But starting with today, I feel quite energized and by my new role, and proud, to be doing what I'm doing at the moment. And I think it's a gift that you can give to your children if every morning you wake up with determination and joy, and a job to do, and you do it with pleasure, and then go back home and go to bed with satisfaction. So I think, and those are the kind of the key moments where you see your kids, right? And in between, they are at school or they are at daycare. So, and that's the impression and the experience that the kids have of you. So when you wake up and when you go to bed, or when you are at home in the evening. So I think it's quite a good role modeling to show that you can be happy to go to work and energized, and you've got lots of ideas, and you feel positive about it, rather than going through the kind of the motion and being a bit not motivated, or you see what I mean. So I like that. I like to show that to my children, that work is enjoyable, and you can be excited about your day, and I hope that will influence them in the future. So that's the first thing, starting with today. Now I think there's been a few challenges along the way as well. To be a working parent with new babies is not always easy, especially 10 years ago when my eldest daughter is born. I think I had 5 days paternity leave. That was the kind of the general rule at the time, right? 5 days. Now it has changed. You can have, like, I think 3 months paternity leave if your partner is back at work, which is great. And I benefited of that policy with my second daughter, who is 5-year-old. So it was such a shift of the benefits and the time that as a dad you can have with your children, which is so important. But with Emilia, my eldest daughter, it was quite difficult because the work was demanding, the nights were short, and I felt I didn't spend much time with my newborn baby, which was quite tricky mentally right? Because you want to spend more time at home. And so I feel I had two different experiences with my eldest daughter and my youngest daughter. And now I've got a bit more flexibility, so which means I can spend a bit more time with them and cook and be a bit more at home, and I enjoy that immensely. So far so good.
Was that one of the reasons for the shift? For the shift away from, not away from Macquarie, but towards your current role? Was that one of the reasons for more flexibility to be at home, or were there other things at play?
That was not the driver. That was not the main driver. The main driver was to be in a more creative industry, because I'm very creative at heart and I'm a writer on the side as well. And I've been a writer for the past 20 years and publishing a few books along the way. So I really felt kind of the need at this stage of my career to be in a more creative environment with a different crowd, effectively. More creative people. Still be a kind of a business person, and most days I'm the suits, effectively. If you follow the Mad Men series, I'm kind of the guy in the suits. I'm a businessman in a world of creatives. But that's a role I like to play, and the environment makes my day, effectively. So that was the main driver, to be in a more creative environment and developing something.
I like
So
how you,
the entrepreneurial side of things is something that really excites me.
okay. So now you're able to straddle those two sides of you a whole lot more, rather than kind of secretly writing a book, or no, like going home away from work and then writing and trying to use the creativity as a bit of an escape from the rest of your world. It's now become more of an integral part of it. And you've got more flexibility to be more creative as well as to spend the time with family. Yeah, I
Yeah,
love that. Uh,
yeah.
what are some of the key lessons you're trying to teach to your kids to ultimately live a more holistically successful life?
To be curious. To be curious about anything and everything. Which means to keep their child mentality. Because you know how children, they always ask, but why, Papa? Why is that? Why is it red? They keep asking that. They keep being curious about the world around them, and they can spot like the smallest thing around us. So they are very observant, and I think we lose that because we are being molded in the corporate world or in the world in general, and we are always like go, rush, so we don't pay attention to the small things. But the small things actually sometimes can have a disproportionate effect in your life, on your learnings, in your journey. They can be more important than one thing. And I think kids we've got a thing or two to learn from kids. They are very important. We should listen to them. We should watch them. We should mimic them. So the key thing I try to instill in them is that curiosity, which will help in return to keep that mentality of being curious and learning about the world, learning about others, being curious about others. Why is that person different? Why is that person speaking differently? And that's basically being a good human, to be interested in others. So curiosity is the first one, and the second one is bloody work hard, because nothing good comes easy, despite what it looks like, despite what people try to make believe on the social networks. There is no such thing as a free lunch. Success doesn't come easy, and happiness comes with difficulty. Again, I really believe in having difficult challenges and working hard for them, and having some element of satisfaction and success from that can bring you happiness to a greater degree than doing easy things you will be able to do anyway. So bloody work hard. I think that's something that's I really believe in. You know, that's the 10,000 hours rule. Even Federer,
Yes.
Federer, is a brilliant tennis talent. But had he not put in those 10,000 hours to practice over and over again, would have would have he become as successful as he has? Probably not.
Sure not. Probably not.
Probably
Almost
not.
certainly not.
So yeah, I believe in work. You might have
Hmm.
a talent, but unless you put in the work, I think that will be a wasted talent. Most probably. Maybe there are some exceptions, and I'm sure you will have examples of people who had a talent and they didn't have to work very hard to bring it to life, and great for them. Or I'm not sure actually, but yeah, good on them. But in general, I think it just takes work.
Yeah, no, I was chatting with I was chatting with my daughter's ballet teacher. She's at a ballet school which focuses on like has actually had some pretty cool successes with some of the dancers going on to becoming professional and seeing where they go. And she said very aptly, she said the students who have a lot of talent get so far, they do well as kids, but then they kind of just if they don't put in all the effort, they don't have the grit, they just don't get anywhere. The ones who
Mm.
have become principals of Royal Ballet schools or have done incredible performances all throughout the world, those ones, they didn't have much talent. They just had a love for the art and
Mm.
a real deep desire to work hard at being the best they can possibly be.
Mm.
That's what made them who they
Yeah.
are. Not this, not the talent that they were born with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if they don't have the body of a typical ballet dancer, they still achieved more than those who had the perfect body of about like the typical body and were able to perform exceptionally well because they had the talent. It's like, no, no, no. The ones who had to work for it are the ones who continue to persist. And I was reminded of two things when you were sharing about your journey in the context of having your two daughters. And the one is that it's a gift that you can give them when you show that you actually get up and you go to work. One of my one of my close friends and a mentor as well um, shared with me that one of his colleagues was asking him, why are you still, he's quite senior, he's doing quite well for himself. He's like, why do you keep ironing your shirts all the time? Like, why are you ironing your shirts? Just go and get, like, it takes way too long. Just go and get it done at dry cleaning and then you don't have to worry about it. But no, the number one reason I iron my shirts is so that my daughters can see, so my children can see that uh, their daddy irons his clothes, just so
Mm.
they can see that there's something you can do consistently, which doesn't take that much time and doesn't mean you can't connect with other people or anything like that. There's something that your daddy can do consistently,
Mm.
and that you will get great results as a result of doing it. And then to continue to have the conversation of, well, I do this so I can go to work. Oh, what do you do at work? It starts new conversations.
Yeah,
And
that's very good.
I was also reminded of something by Ed Millett. Have you heard of Ed Millett? The
Remind me.
He's a motivational speaker. His he's a very kind of uh, happy, energetic, emotional kind of guy. Um, his he shares some pretty beautiful things actually.
Look it
But
up.
one of the things that he shared is that you if you want to be a great parent, you've got to be a leader in their lives. And a great leader is not saying, "Oh, well, this is just how it is and it's hard and so I'm just doing it because I have to." A great leader
Mm.
doesn't do that. No, no, no. A great leader is going to say, "It might feel tough now, but the future is going to be incredible. The future is going to be so much better and we can make it even better than what otherwise will be.
Mm. Mm.
We can take part in making sure that our future in the world is going to be exceptional and that the future that we live in is going to be amazing." And he says a lot of parents fall short because they don't sell the dream to their kids. A lot of leaders
Mm.
in organizations sell short because they're not selling the dream to their kids. They're just like,
Yeah.
no, it is, yeah, like it's shit. Management's like this, blah blah blah. Or it's crap. Life's just really hard, and the world could end at any moment with nuclear war, and who cares? Or you can really sell them the dream and show them
Yeah.
the, because you said what sparked this is because when you said the work's enjoyable and you can be excited about your future.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I like what you are saying, Harry. Here, it's there is certainly an educational part. So, and it's even like, I'm excited because it's a new industry I'm working in, because I'm meeting new people. I can actually develop new products or new campaigns. I think the articulation and the formalization of why you are excited or is quite important as well, for kids to understand. Um, and it's the same thing for, I don't know if you've come across that, but one thing that I'm trying to teach my kids is also to not only to say thank you, but to say thank you for dot dot dot. So thank you for accepting me in your school, or for thank you for inviting me to this birthday party. It's basically to qualify those few words that you use, and that's kind of became a bit buzzwords, and kind of words that you say without thinking, which is important. So, and
Sorry
yeah, or sorry, but sorry
means
why?
nothing, right?
And that's something I apply to myself as well. So I don't say thank you anymore. I say thank you for, and I try to really find the reason why I want to say thank you. If you see what I mean. And that's actually a very good way to build good relationships as well, because you give a bit more to others. You spend a bit more time writing that response, on WhatsApp or in an email. It's a bit more thoughtful. It's a bit more being, not just like a machine and just like, okay, let's type thank you, hit send, and then go on to the next thing. It's actually just, and you don't have to write a paragraph or a novel. It just takes 30 seconds instead of 10 seconds or 3 seconds. And I find that quite effective in building relationships, and actually what you get back is at the level of that time investment that you put in. Uh, and I find that's contagious. So if you do it yourself, people start doing it as well. And then, that's kind of driving for a better world. I'm a romantic, so I've got to say that, but I believe in that. I believe in the.
I was going to
I'm,
ask, are people doing that with all their relationships, or do you notice people doing it because they're doing it with you?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm not a religious person, but I believe in karma. So I really believe in when you do good things for others, however small. I think those other people you are exchanging with are more likely to do something good as well, and it can have a kind of a snowball effect.
Where's the as we get towards the end of this conversation, where's the future for you? We've gone through your journey. We've gone to where you are now and what you've learned. Uh, what do you think the future holds? You've still got another good 40, 50, maybe 60 years left in you. What's next? What's in the future? What are some of your aspirations, your goals, your desires for where life will be?
I hope the future will be very creative, because we will need lots of creativity and people, very diverse people coming together to be able to solve for the world defining challenges that we have to solve for. Whether it's climate change, whether it's artificial intelligence, whether it's technology, whether it's kind of the generational divide with the new digital generation, and how to integrate them into how they will reinvent the world, and how to keep connected with that generation, which is very interesting as well when you hit like 45 or 50 years old. How do you stay connected with that generation who is born with a screen in their hands? So creativity is for me is the one word. People will have to be very creative, more creative than they've been in the last decades. I think that will be the means to survival. And creativity is something that technology will not replace. So it's also good because that means that, as humans, you won't be replaceable by robots if you keep being creative. But not only individually, as I said, it's bringing people, very diverse people that you wouldn't bring normally in a normal environment. I think more and more we need to bring people. And recently I was at the Climate Action Week in Sydney, and that was a good example of that. It's people from different walks of life coming together: business, academics, activists, students. So irrespectively of age, careers, industries, dreams, everyone came together to have a dialogue and learn from others and see what other ideas we can bring to the table and what other initiatives we can launch and how to help each other towards that common goal, which is to save the planet. And I believe that that can be done in every field at the moment. To bring diverse people and be creative.
Is there anything that you're doing to bring those diverse people through and bring them together?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm trying to do in my work life. So to bring the two topics of strategy and creativity together, and to work on that intersect. So if you think of a Venn diagram with strategy and creativity, my mandate is really to amplify that intersect between the two, which means that it means educating people to say that it's not, as in the old world, you define a strategy and then you use creativity to actually communicate it. It's a two-way street. So in most of the strategic workshops I run, I always bring creatives with me who will bring visualization, new innovative techniques to bring to life a strategic concept, a strategic pillar, a value, an objective. Because with an image or new type of visualization, you can actually inform the strategy, as in the business strategy. You can give new ideas, offer new perspectives, draw parallels between different concepts. And it's a new way of thinking. And so I really believe passionately in bringing those two together. So that's what I do to bring more diverse people together.
I love what you're sharing. I especially love the overlap with a lot of our previous guests that have shared somewhat similar messages. The one that comes to mind immediately is on this topic is Bin Jiang. He's an incredible communication teacher, amazing communication teacher, one of the best in the world actually. He went through the US for quite a while. He lives in Adelaide and does online things and has done incredibly well. And one of the things that he did to always improve is, I think that's episode 15, if anyone wants to go back to listen to that one. One of the things that he did in his throughout his career is every time he wants to create a new interactive or a new show or a new performance or a new something that really can bring people in, a new keynote or a new service he's creating, he'll get a week and he'll just get a whole group of people together. He'll sometimes just employ people for it as well. He'll get a psychologist or psychiatrist. He'll get an engineer. He'll get someone who's exceptionally creative, an actor or something like that. He'll get all these people from different walks of life, right, from different areas of expertise to come together and work on this project together. Often pays them and pays for the whole thing to be set up as well. And then in just this whole thing of immersion just goes into, okay, how can we piece this all together? How can we get all of our perspectives to get the most from all of us to be able to make this really impressive and really original and engaging and exceptional and impactful? And there's a lot to be said for this, especially in our world today, where people tend to avoid people of differing political views or differing religious views or differing views of any sort. It's like, oh no, I don't belong here. I don't belong here. Don't belong here. Don't belong here. And everyone's just trying to fit into wherever their political views are, and they don't really express who they are or what their views are or how they actually feel because of the fear of being ostracized and pushed away.
Mm.
I think that what you're sharing about making sure that different ideas and different people can come together, sometimes for commercial results, sometimes for impact results, sometimes just for social cohesion.
Mm.
Sounds very important. I love that message as well.
Oh, thank you. No, it is certainly very important, and now more than ever, probably.
As perhaps a final question, I mean, we've spoken about a lot of stuff, and we've spoken about ultimately you've shared that. If I were to rephrase the definition of success that you've shared with me, it's more along the lines of make sure that you can continue to express and show and live all sides of you, to be able to be the best parent you can be for your kids, and to be a great husband, and to make sure that you're getting great results in wherever you're working and whatever you're doing for finances. But at the same time, always stay open to opportunities, continue to build relationships, and keep moving. So just don't stay still wherever you are. Just keep moving so you can keep growing, so you can always keep doing something. And then that way you'll keep learning and you'll keep growing. And then that's what ultimately can lead to success. Is that a fair interpretation of what you've shared throughout the last hour or so, hour and 15?
When you express it that way, it seems wow, not easy, because it's a big ask, a big mandate, but that's a good summary. Yeah, that's a good summary. And movement is definitely the key thing. Movement and kindness and empathy and curiosity. But definitely, I think there is one way to be really dissatisfied and kind of disillusioned with whatever you want is always to think of the big thing at the end. If you think of the big thing at the end, however realistic or unrealistic it is, I think you set yourself for disappointment. So me as a writer, for example, if I take that as an example, if I think of I want the Nobel Prize for literature. That's what I want. That's it. How I get there, I've got no clue, but that's what I want. And that's fine. Maybe that's okay, but I would rather take the next step, which is okay. That small publisher. It's not very famous, but they actually like what I write. They want to publish my books and they want to promote my books. And it's not very prestigious, but at least that book will exist. It will have a few readers. Maybe it will impact the life of one person, and I will take that. And I know some people might say no actually to that opportunity because they say, oh, but that's not good enough because I want the Nobel Prize. So why isn't that bigger publishing company coming to me? I deserve it because the other ones, they don't get me, like they don't get my talent. They don't see the talent I have. You see what I mean? And there have been periods of my life where I was a bit like that, and it's not the best way to be satisfied. So I believe in movement, however modest it can be, little steps, being humble, and then by doing those small steps, you actually meet new people, do new discovery, new learnings. It's positive. You keep moving, and actually you are heading towards that Nobel Prize without knowing. You see what I mean? It's
I
yeah.
see what you mean. And you just reminded me of throughout our conversation, you mentioned early on that there were periods of time where you were just a passenger, or you played the passenger role instead of taking ownership or taking control of your direction. Where were those periods throughout your journey?
Um, it was in those periods where I was not in a flow state anymore. Do you know about the flow theory? The flow theory, for those who listen, is really that state of mind where so it's a two by two matrix, and you've got kind of the difficulty of the challenge you have, and you have your level of skills. So if the difficulty of the challenge you have at hand is very high and you have very low skills, it's not good basically it will be kind of you will be depressed and off-putting, and there is no way I will be able to do that. But the state of flow, and that's the kind of the top right hand side corner, is the difficulty of the challenge that you have is high, but your level of skill is very high. And so you've got that state of flow where you are motivated by the task, and you've got the skills, but it's stretching yourself. It's a question of marginal gain. It's the 1% on the 1%. So it's very motivating, but you can do it ultimately. Whenever I'm outside of that flow quadrant, which is difficult challenge, and I've got the skills or the belief that I can do it, I sometimes become disengaged. I've become a bit of a quiet kind of passenger, quiet. How do we call that? Quiet quitter. It's kind of you resign while still being in the job. So I won't cite the time periods in my career where I was that, but there were a few periods, a couple of years here and there, where I was in that position, where I would have the skills, but the challenges were actually not that great anymore. So the learning I was getting from the job was kind of minimum. It was like I was just doing the job and getting the salary, but it didn't feel very motivating. I always think of that like being in the flow states, and it's a very interesting theory for those who are listening. If you want to look at the flow theory, being challenged and developing your skills, and that's the good state for me.
Perfect. I feel like we've come to quite a natural close to this conversation, Olivier. I'd like to still ask you though, and give you the opportunity to share any final words of wisdom that you think could be really valuable for the listeners. And most of the listeners are those who are just trying to make the right decisions, make more purposeful decisions, they deeply care about others who are in their life, their family, their spouse, their kids, their work, the people, their friends, the people that they care about. And they want to just make sure that they keep making the right decision to really enjoy life while still moving towards a sense of achievement and a sense of impact as well. I'm curious what final point or two you'd want to share to close off that conversation.
Number one is being connected. I don't really believe in being in your ivory tower and big and producing a work of genius on your own. So being connected and taking every opportunity to meet new people, go to different environments, to go for coffee catch-ups, to ask questions, to listen. I really believe in that, the power of connections. And often that's the case. Some people, reach out to me on LinkedIn and say, I've looked your profile. It's interesting. Would you have time, for a quick chat or a coffee catch-up? And most of the time I say yes, let's have a quick chat. Yeah, of course. I've got a tendency to be a yes man in that category, because I'm always interested. Even people reaching out to you, like it's quite nice. It's so being connected would be kind of the top tip number one, because whatever you want in life, I think those people can actually have different perspectives and which helps you on your journey. And if anything, by sharing your story, you can actually have direct feedback from people you don't know, which is quite priceless as well. Because if you ask your family or your friends, then they might not tell you things the way that they already are. So connections would be one. And the second question would be to be open-minded. And sorry, that's a bit cliche what I say, but open-minded to new solutions, new ways of working, to new things, to have a learning mindset. So being connected and being open would be, and to enjoy it, and to enjoy those things for what they are, and not think about anything else while you are doing them. I think that's important. So while talking to you, Harry, I haven't thought of, my next meeting, or I haven't thought of my work that I need to do today, or I was actually, really listening to you and really in the moment.
Thank you. And I'm hopeful that our listeners have been really listening to you, Olivier, and in the moment. There's been a lot of value that you've shared through your journey. And thank you for taking the time to share it.
No, thank you, Harry, for having me. Very much appreciated, and I really enjoy talking to you, having this dialogue.
I've enjoyed it too.
So I hope you received a whole lot of value from engaging in that conversation. What were the key takeaways for you? What can you schedule in your life right now to make sure that the time you just invested into listening to this exceptional conversation with this amazing mentor and this amazing individual is time that wasn't misused, but was time that you've allocated properly to enhancing your life and improving it? Whatever it is, schedule it now, practice it now, be the successful person you're meant to be, live with purpose.